February 7, 1943, Guadalcanal. Lieutenant Kenneth Walsh eased his F4U Corsair into a climbing turn at 14,000 feet. The Pratt & Whitney or 2800 double wasp engine thundered with 2,000 horsepower, shaking the cockpit as the great machine clawed for altitude. Below him, 4 Japanese Mitsubishi A6M Zero fighters moved in flawless formation. They were confident, disciplined, men-seasoned veterans who had fought from China to the Solomons. Walsh had been flying the Corsair for barely 3 weeks. The Zero pilots spotted him first. Walsh knew they had. He watched them break formation, splitting into pairs, spiraling upward in the maneuver that had killed hundreds of Allied pilots since Pearl Harbor. For 18 months, that same tactic had ruled the skies. It had become almost myth-a-move thought unbeatable. But Walsh decided to change the rules. He pushed the throttle forward. The Corsair's nose dropped slightly as the airspeed needle shot past 300 knots. The engine roared, the wings groaned, and the distance between hunter and prey disappeared in seconds. Walsh fired a short burst. Tracers found their mark. 1-0 erupted in smoke and spiraled down toward the jungle below. Pulled up, rolled hard, and dove again. Another burst, another kill. Within 3 minutes, all 4 Zeros were destroyed or fleeing. Walsh limped home to Henderson Field with holes in his wings and almost no fuel, his mind burning with one thought. Had the war in the air just changed forever? For nearly 2 years, the Imperial Japanese Navy's Zero fighter had dominated the Pacific skies. It was fast, agile, and graceful on extension of the pilot's own instincts. Allied flyers were told one simple truth: never dogfight a Zero, you will lose. The aircraft's design philosophy came from Chief Engineer Jiro Horikoshi, who built it for range, maneuverability, and climb rate above all else. It could escort bombers for over 1,000 miles and outearn any enemy fighter alive. But that elegance came with a price. Zero had no armor, no self-sealing fuel tanks, and a frame so light that mechanics were warned not to lean on its wings. It was lethal but fragile. Across the ocean, the Americans were designing something very different. In 1938, the U.S. Navy demanded a new fighter that would be the fastest and strongest in the world. They didn't care if it could outturn the enemy. They wanted raw power. Engineer Rex Bicel at Vought Aircraft took the challenge. His answer was the F4U Corsair machine built around the most powerful engine ever put in a fighter. Its massive propeller required an inverted gull-wing design just to keep the landing gear short enough for carrier use. The prototype first flew in 1940 and shattered every record. Reaching over 400 miles per hour and climbing faster than anything in the sky, but the Corsair was difficult to handle and hard to land. So the Navy handed it to the Marine Corps, who were more than willing to tame the beast. By early 1943, Marine Fighter Squadron 214, the legendary Black Sheep, was flying Corsairs in the Solomon Islands. Their aircraft weighed over 14,000 pounds, fully loaded with 6 heavy, 50 caliber machine guns and an armored cockpit. The engine alone produced double the horsepower of the Japanese Zero. On paper, the difference was staggering. The Corsair could dive past 400 miles per hour and still respond smoothly, while the Zero's controls froze at those speeds. The Marines soon realized that the Corsair didn't need to outturn. The WWII could simply outfight it through speed, altitude, and timing. Maneuverability, they learned, wasn't about turning tighter. It was about controlling the battle itself. The skies over Rabaul would prove it. By late 1943, Rabaul was Japan's strongest fortress in the South Pacific, defended by hundreds of aircraft. American bombers, escorted by Corsairs and Hellcats, attacked day after day. On October 24th, Major Robert Gaylor led 8 Corsairs against 30 Zeros at 18,000 feet. 12 minutes later, 9 enemy fighters were down without a single American loss. The key was energy, not agility. When the Zeros climbed to gain advantage, the Corsairs dove away, building immense speed, then climbed back before the enemy could react. Each attack was fast, brutal, and decisive. The Japanese pilots, once the masters of aerial grace, suddenly found themselves fighting ghosts that vanished and struck again from nowhere. Warrant Officer Saburo Sakai, one of Japan's most famous aces, would later describe these encounters as terrifyingly different. American pilots no longer avoided combat. They attacked directly, using speed as their shield. In one battle on November 11, 1943, Sakai's squadron of 8 Zeros intercepted 12 Corsairs escorting bombers. Before he could even issue a warning, his wingman's plane exploded under heavy gunfire. Sakai rolled away, blacking out from the strain of the turn. When he regained consciousness seconds later, the Corsairs were gone, already climbing back to altitude. The entire engagement had lasted less than half a minute. As the months passed, the numbers told the truth. Between early 1943 and 1945, Corsair squadrons achieved an astonishing kill ratio: 11 Japanese aircraft destroyed for every Corsair lost. Marine units alone scored 284 confirmed kills against only 23 losses. Pilots like Gregory "Pappy" Boyington, Robert Hansen, and Kenneth Walsh became legends, proving that superior power could overcome even the most elegant enemy. Meanwhile, Japan's pool of veteran pilots was shrinking faster than it could be replaced. At Rabaul alone, over 200 experienced aviators were lost in just 6 months. The Zero's dominance had ended not because its pilots had grown weaker, but because its enemies had learned to fight differently. The Zero had been built for finesse, for precision, for mastery of the dogfight. The Corsair was built for force, endurance, and control. When those two philosophies met in the skies above the Pacific, the outcome changed the future of aerial combat forever. The Corsair didn't just defeat the Zero. It redefined what air superiority meant and marked the moment when power, speed, and innovation finally replaced myth. If you enjoyed this story of courage and innovation, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Every story of history deserves to be remembered, especially the ones that changed how the world fights, flies, and wins.